ensure that the best service is introduced to our citizens nationwide, and here particularly in Upper Egypt in Aswan. Well, here we are talking about utility services, sanitary, electricity, eminent sector, civil protection. Well, the minister had a tour in which he inspected a number of development project sites, and as we saw, he had dialogues with many of our citizens, our residents in this wonderful city of Aswan to shed more light on the tour and on the messages which were sent during the press conference of the Premier. We are very much delighted to have with us via phone Ambassador Medhat Miligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, today, as usual, I know it's now normal to find top executives and to find the Prime Minister himself keen to have these inspection tours, taking him to many cities all over Egypt. And when it comes to Upper Egypt and when it comes to Aswan, this very dear part, which unfortunately suffered negligence for such a long time. Now the case is totally different, and when you visit such places you feel that there is such a keenness from the state to make sure that the best service is introduced to our people there. Before going into the details, how do you see the inspection tour?
Well, first of all, it shows to which extent we are committed, the government is committed to fix the life of many Egyptians who have suffered, as you just mentioned, negligence for such a long time. And the idea is, I mean, if you take even one single detail about one of the villages that the Prime Minister have visited, which is Faris village, and you see that one of the things that he checked was that the village is becoming free of carbon emissions and environmental pollution. Which shows that it's not just about development of the village as much as it is green development, which is something that Egypt has been talking about so long, and we even hosted the COP for this, and we try to find sponsors to help Egypt to transform many of our industries and our cities and villages to green technology and green development.
Yeah.
So this shows that it wasn't just words when the president himself spoke about the switch from traditional economy to green economy, and yet, and in a further governorate, which is Aswan, we see that the Prime Minister himself is checking to which extent this has been
This was my coming question, sir, regarding Creativa, or this center which was established, of course, by our Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, and it was inaugurated by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in June 2022, as far as I remember, one of the 8 centers scattered all over Egypt for digitalization, well, moving to digital Egypt, digital transformation, and as you've kindly mentioned, green and even blue economy too. How do you see all the time now thinking out of the box? Innovation is the secret. Innovation is the key word. How do you see this center and its location, I mean, in Aswan?
Well, actually, I see this in the specter of the many initiatives that the President himself has initiated. And of course, we see when we talk about decent life, which is one of the main projects that is its sole objectivity is to help the Egyptians to get into the digital era as that we are living right now.
Yeah.
In the whole world. As we know that illiteracy is not just about writing and reading, but it's more about how to deal with the digital era that we are living in. So it's in the same spectrum that we are talking about, is that Egypt and even the furthest and the most remote areas of Egypt are in fact using this technology, and this is one of the reasons of the visit. The Prime Minister himself is checking about this new project of creativity, which is one of the most important projects now, and we hope that it will be implemented in other areas that, as we said before, was neglected in Upper Egypt and other remote villages of Egypt.
You know, sir, I've asked this question, or I mentioned Creativa, because when we know that these projects are established under the umbrella of Hayat Karima, or Decent Life Initiative, which aims at improving the conditions of life of millions of Egyptians nationwide, of course, it's not only about food security, which is, of course, an important priority, but also it's about all services. It's about electricity, imminent sector, maintaining civil protection, maintaining or taking care of the environmental side of the coin, taking into consideration that it's not a luxury anymore to digitalize our services. How do you see this balance or this equation implemented on the ground?
Well, actually, I would like even to add one of the projects that the Prime Minister have checked today and have inaugurated today is the new library. I think you heard about the Library of Egypt, the new public library that is supposed to be inaugurated today by the Prime Minister. And even he was talking about the possibility of having a mobile library for many other neighborhoods that they couldn't go to the main library. So the idea is not just about economy and about industry and about just projects to feed the mouth, but also to feed the minds. All Egyptians have the right to have a good library in order to be able to enter the new era that we are living in. The idea is very comprehensive. It's not just about one or two projects. Actually, there are several number of projects. If you read about the many projects that the Prime Minister today have visited and still visiting, you will understand to which extent that we are trying to move all our villages, all our cities from the 20th century to the new 21st century. And in order to do that, you have to implement new projects, you have to spend more money. So the idea that some people are saying that Egypt is neglecting some of its most eminent project is not there. Actually, you see it right there with the Prime Minister.
Following up the progress of work, following up the pace of work, being that flexible in amending some rules on the ground, being that keen as we were watching now the Premier was keen to exchange dialogue with those on duty in different sense to make sure that all obstacles are eliminated, and if there were anything which should be done, it should be done immediately on the ground, far from this bureaucratic procedures, or because this is not the new Egypt, this is not the new government, this is not the new republic, I mean. If you want to elaborate on that too.
Well, of course. I mean, one of the projects that were implemented and today we've seen it is the crisis center that was opened in case of natural disaster or anything. So the idea is not just about to do some projects that will only last while the visit is there, as we used to see that before. But actually, it's more elaborated. The idea is even in time of crisis, we have a center that is supposed to deal with any crisis that might emerge, whether we are talking about a natural disaster or any other disaster that might hit the governorate of Aswan. And then we have also one of the strategic thinking of the government is even to equip the city with centers that can treat any disasters that might occur.
Yeah.
So I think that it's very comprehensive, as I mentioned at the beginning, to have several projects that will serve not just right now the community, but even in time of stress, there is also something to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, Ambassador Medhat Miligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good afternoon. Right after the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.